Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent. Today we're gathering to talk about something a little bit different that I'm putting on your radar. We're talking about Terminal Brigade. This is a free-to-play co-op roguelike PvE shooter. It's a mouthful there, and honestly, there's more that you could even add to this list of genres that this game covers, and I'll talk about it in a moment when I talk about the playable characters. But as someone who posts like practically every day of the week, combining MrMattyPlays and Retro Rebound, where just both those channels are so active, I still don't feel like I have enough slots to talk about things I like. So it's really nice when a publisher like Pew Pew Games comes along and says, hey, we'd like to just make sure that you get this game on your channel. How about a sponsored video? And of course, you know, my rule of thumb, as I've said many times before, but I always want to make sure it's clear anytime I do one of these videos is, can I say what I have to say? Yes? Okay, great. And so I do have some critiques of the game overall, but for the most part, I've been having a pretty good time, and I just wanted to share that with you here today, and maybe you put this free-to-play game in your library and you check it out later. But yeah, I've been messing around with the beta. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, you're into what's going on with the games industry, consider subscribing. So, like I mentioned earlier with the list of all those genres, there's a lot of different ways you can play this game. Like, it says shooter, and for example, one of the 6 playable characters that you can get into is Blade, and she's like this ninja assassin character. Really stylish, like her ultimate is crazy sick, just tons of slashes and swords going everywhere, but that's kind of like the crux of her character. Is all about the blade, if the name didn't give it all away. But yeah, you'll be shooting with her, but most of your actions, your attacks, are going to come through the sword. So for example, I was using the controller, and when I press like the left trigger, she has just a slash that lets you dash to enemies all over the arena. And when the arena starts to get full and you need to start using it strategically to like dodge enemy attacks, like this is really useful for that sort of stuff. But I just wanted to emphasize early that it's not just shooting, but there's like a lot of melee combat here, depending on who you're playing as. Characters like Colonel, who you open up in the tutorial as, are just like great feeling third-person shooting characters. But characters like Blade have a lot of depth to them, like a lot of movement tech, a lot of slash dashes, but also the gun. Probably my favorite out of the 3 I played around, and again, there are 6 in total, was Aurora, actually. Aurora was just such a fun time because of the amount of air that she could get. Like, you would fly up in the air and then shoot down on your opponents, and you didn't have to like really aim, you just had to hold the trigger and your weapon would do all the work. And then I found an upgrade in one of the rooms that gave me chain lightning, so you'll see that the lightning's chaining between all these different enemies, and I'm doing damage to so many at once. Plus I changed one of her active abilities where it used to be just a little like pulse blast kind of burst, but you could hold it and almost like Kamehameha and blast it into someone, which I thought was really cool. And I guess the good thing is if you have friends, don't need to really be too focused on who do I want to play as, because you can bring all these characters into a mission together. Again, it's co-op. I played it with friends, but for a lot of my time spent with Terminal Brigade, I played it by myself. And that, I think, is the best thing I can say about it, is that, I had a fun time playing this co-op game alone. That's a very short list for me, at least. So I wanted to put that out there for y'all. Now, to kind of balance things out, as we get into the gameplay a little bit, third-person shooting feels good, abilities feel good, sound is good, VFX are good, all that's good. A little more enemy variety would go a long way with this game. Like, a lot of enemies with shields as kind of the primary difference maker between them and cannon fodder. It's more so like they throw a lot of enemies at you and they're just throwing themselves at you constantly, so you're still engaged, but I think a little bit more variety in how you attack them, like a melee versus shooting them, or even just using abilities on them. Leaning into those could, I think, create just further depth with these characters, so I think they should go ahead and do that. But overall, otherwise, the only other thing I noticed that stood out to me were a little bit of buggy menus, but this is also a beta, so I'm not going to lose my mind over that. Like, these are things like the escape key being wrongly labeled in the corner, or just sometimes like my cursor disappears and I have to like tab out, tab back in, little things like that. But otherwise, when it's working pretty well. So what's the general flow of the game? It's a roguelike, right? So if you've played one, you kind of know the flow of this thing. You go through rooms, you kill enemies, and as you complete these rooms, you're going to get lots of rewards. So you're going to get things like perks, enhancement items, relics, health upgrades. When you buy these items from the shop, these will create item sets, and these item sets have their own ability buffs, whether it be like your RB or your LB or your ultimate ability, which is RB and LB at the same time, or just your general attacks. Like, there's lots of things that you can get to attach to your weapons and your abilities that really change how you play the game. Again, the best example I do have was when I was playing as Aurora with that chain lightning. She just felt like a totally different character throughout the course of my mission compared to what I started with. As you clear these areas, you gain what is called Tycho coins. This is what you spend on these upgrades. And the game isn't really frugal with any of this. Like, you're just going, upgrading. I'm always picking really high level upgrades too. Like, the game's not afraid to just give you like legendary stuff pretty immediately, which I thought felt good. But these items, again, are just super useful because they'll let like your ultimate charge quicker, and your ultimate is busted. And if you don't have things that help it charge quicker, you're going to be missing it as these matches go on. This is a game, though, it's back to my upgrade talk about numbers. So high numbers, everything, high damage numbers, but also like high health bars, like, oh my gosh, like 100 plus health bars for an enemy. This keeps enemies from feeling spongy. Actually, like a kind of smart design decision, because I'm just watching these health bars wipe, and I think some people might find it a little bit of a cheap solution, but I think these enemies I feel like I'm sawing through them because I'm watching all of those health bars go away. So I thought that was cool. In between these rooms, there is a little bit of story. I'm not gonna act like it's the best story in the world, but like maybe you care about this because I think these games are really defined by their universe rather than their stories. And this is more like a sci-fi, cyberpunky kind of game, as I'm sure you've already been able to gather. So I like this type of universe, and that's enough to pull me in. But the general idea is that this digital product known as the Matrix has emerged as a favorite in this game's world. And it's basically created a digital world where people interact and hang out. So yeah, pretty good term, Matrix. However, a virus has arrived where people's consciousness are stuck in this digital world. And now Ion, pretty much the master AI of this world, has gotten all of these heroes together, you know, your Colonels and your Blades and your Auroras together to help free everyone from this AI consciousness. As a Matrix diehard myself, I approve. I will say the camera controlling can be a little wonky at times, not in the really negative way. It's just that because there's this auto lock-on feature when you're trying to aim with your gun, because there's so many enemies on screen, sometimes I'll aim at the wrong enemy and lock onto them. Other times when I'm fighting bosses, it's the way the camera fixes itself. It'll kind of point you up a lot, and a lot of enemy attacks are happening on the ground, and so it'll block my vision a bit, where I think one of the tweaks they can make from this beta, based on my feedback, would be tilting the camera a little bit or giving me more control or pulling it out a little bit, whatever the solution is, so that I can actually see the ground and react properly to the bosses, because they actually have unique mechanics and they're tough. Like, one of the final fights I did was like this huge dragon that then started to summon mob enemies, and they were all putting up shields on the boss, and I had to take them out to then damage the boss. I just thought that was some good stuff, and so this was kind of taking away from some of that fun factor. Then there are little like missions and challenges within these rooms, like, oh, defeat X amount of enemies so then this other enemy is vulnerable, or destroy X amount of objects so that these other enemies are vulnerable, or just wiping these enemies out. It's pretty simple stuff, but because the gameplay, the loop is strong enough, I think it all works together pretty well, and so the game has a solid fun factor. You know, it's just something that works well with my brain, I guess, because I just enjoy sawing through enemies, feeling really powerful in these games, watching my character get progressively stronger room after room as I upgrade my relics, I upgrade my abilities, testing them against a boss, or doing it alongside friends. It's still, because it's a roguelike game, that just random element of like, what boss am I going to run into? What enemies I'm going to run into? Am I going to get the good roll this time around? So there's still a little intensity on that front of like, you need a little bit of luck in these games. Still a couple issues that I hope they iron out before their official final launch, but the beta was a pretty good time, and I'm happy I gave it a couple hours to just check things out, see what's going on here, and then put it on your radar. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of Terminal Brigade down below. Again, shout out to Pew Pew Games for sponsoring today's video, but other than that, I'll catch you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace. As you can see, my dog is extremely excited about what Terminal Brigade is bringing to the table. He's just digging away at, yep, literally just the carpet. I don't know what's wrong with him.